About the box office disaster that is Disney's Snow White, and the lead actress's delusions of grandeur are not helping. Here she compares herself to a priceless piece of art, the Winged Victory.
To everyone who hates when I win, the Winged Victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Disney's latest attempt to modernize a classic fairy tale has backfired spectacularly. The highly anticipated Snow White remake took a bold new direction, stripping away the traditional love story and prince-saving narrative. Instead, the film aimed to present Snow White as a strong, independent leader who doesn't need romance to define her. Before we dive further, make sure to subscribe to our channel for the latest updates. While this shift may have seemed like a progressive step to some, it quickly became a source of controversy. Many audiences felt the changes disregarded the original story's charm and appeal. This move mirrored similar missteps by brands like Bud Light and Nike, which faced backlash for overly politicized messaging. The decision to modernize Snow White in this manner proved to be a gamble that ultimately didn't pay off.
Alex, what has been the reaction to Disney's latest expensive own goal?
Well, the reaction has been absolutely horrible. It is the worst box office from a Disney live action remake that they've ever done, and Dumbo didn't do very well, but this is actually performing much lower than Dumbo. And this couldn't happen to a better person, in my opinion. Rachel is literally the star of a Disney movie, and she acts like she's some sort of victim, and that's the sort of mentality that is just poisoning people's minds. Like, she acts like her life is so bad, considering she's a multi-millionaire actress living out every struggling actress's or actor's dream, and she just kind of, hand waves it like she's still some sort of victim, when in reality, she should be a movie star. She should be happy. She should be, apolitical, positive, but she's not that way. She loves Kamala Harris. She was, as woke as they are. And, the saying, go woke, get broke. And Disney's going to lose money on this movie. And I believe it only made less than $1 million in China, which is a huge indication that it will not do well globally.
The financial results of Snow White were nothing short of disastrous. Despite a staggering $240 million budget, the film managed to earn only $48 million during its opening weekend. Such an abysmal performance placed it among Disney's biggest flops in recent history.
Rome. While enjoying the vibe and excitement of the streets of London.
Hey, what?
3 of the most beautiful cities in Europe.
A blockbuster of this scale typically requires at least double its production cost to break even, considering marketing expenses. The poor box office turnout highlights the disconnect between Disney's vision and what audiences actually want to see. Many attribute this failure to both the film's radical departure from the beloved classic and the negative press surrounding it. Ultimately, the numbers speak for themselves. Audiences were not interested in what Disney was selling this time around.
Oh, goodness me. She didn't have a post saying, if you're going to vote for Trump, just unfollow me. And I think a lot of people have just taken that advice and are not supportive of her projects. And in fact, if the film is as bad as they say, you're not going to go along and watch it anyway.
Not only did the movie underperform financially, but audience reception was equally brutal. On IMDb, Snow White received a shocking 1.6 out of 10 rating, while Rotten Tomatoes showed a disappointing 42%. Even critics weren't impressed, with The Guardian giving it a measly 1 out of 5 stars. These ratings indicate that viewers not only rejected the film's changes, but found little redeeming value in the final product. Negative word of mouth further hurt its chances at the box office, with many viewers warning others to avoid wasting their money. The overwhelming consensus was that the film simply failed to capture the magic of the original, instead pushing an agenda that felt forced and unnecessary.
Longer 1937.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Beyond the dismal ratings, visual evidence of the film's failure became apparent through images and videos of nearly empty theaters. Moviegoers shared footage online of screenings with barely any attendees, making it clear that the film was struggling to draw crowds. Such scenes starkly contrasted with the packed theaters seen for previous Disney remakes, like Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King. The lack of audience enthusiasm made it evident that Snow White had failed to generate the excitement or nostalgia necessary for a successful box office run. In an era where social media amplifies real-time reactions, these images only cemented the perception that the movie was a colossal flop.
We can start out with the creative bankruptcy of remaking another animated classic instead of making something new. But yes, it's all Rachel Zegler and her behavior. And if it was just one comment, it probably would have been forgotten by now. But it was comment after comment, and it was pissing off everybody, pissing off old Disney fans, pissing off new Disney fans, pissing off Trump supporters, pissing off all of America. And it became such a disaster that they had to shut her up, which was the smartest move they made. But the onus is all on her and Disney's reaction to it. And quite frankly, if she has said nothing, her movie, probably still forgettable, would have done a lot better.
A significant part of the backlash stemmed from lead actress Rachel Zegler, whose comments about the film and its themes alienated potential viewers. From the start, Zegler dismissed the original Snow White, calling it weird and outdated. She openly mocked the idea of a prince saving the princess, suggesting that the classic fairy tale was no longer relevant. These remarks upset longtime Disney fans who cherished the original story. Instead of promoting the film positively, Zegler's comments seemed to attack the very essence of what made Snow White beloved. Rather than enticing audiences, her words fueled negative sentiment, further driving people away from seeing the movie in theaters. Several well-known commentators and critics weighed in on the controversy, pointing out that every change made to the original Snow White seemed to worsen the story. Conservative commentator Michael Knowles criticized Disney for sacrificing narrative quality in favor of ideological messaging.
Had not fallen prey to wokeness and nonsense in recent years. Even if Disney still had the most talented people in the world working with the best writers, with a good sense of narrative and the cultural moment, even if everything worked perfectly, it would have been almost impossible for this movie to succeed, because you're comparing it to one of the most beloved films of all time and a truly groundbreaking movie. And Disney was not sending its best. I sat through the whole thing. I don't want to say it was the worst movie I've ever seen. It wasn't. But every way that the movie changed the story from the original, the 1937 movie, or even from the original Grimm Brothers fairy tale, every way that Disney changed the story, it changed it for the worse. This was really bad. It was extremely leftist on every political dimension: racial politics, sexual politics, class politics, regime politics. Its narrative was cowardly. It was just off.
He argued that even if Disney hadn't been caught up in modern wokeness, the remake would have struggled simply because the 1937 original was so iconic. Douglas Murray echoed similar sentiments, calling the movie a stinker that lacked the heart and creativity that made the original so beloved. The common theme among critics was that the film felt more like a political statement than a well-crafted retelling of a timeless story.
This remake is reportedly to have cost more than $200 million, and Disney seemed too scared to properly promote this movie.
It's quite interesting. Disney has had a terrible run of it because it's still as a studio trying to pump out the sort of material which might have been briefly thought to be a good idea in, I don't know, the summer of 2020, but really looks horribly dated and actually misreading the situation now. I mean, you know, I think I've said to you before, Rita, but in general, when they do these remakes and they're done by people who hate the original, like, you know, Snow White just has to be the woman she knows she can be and the leader she believes she can be. Maybe you should just invent a different story and call it something different. And Disney seem to know that they've got another stinker of a movie here. I might be wrong, but they seem to know, rather like their pretty woke remake of Peter Pan a couple of years ago that bombed at the box office. Disney clearly know that they've got to silence their star. And that's why last week the huge launch of the film was in the middle of nowhere in Spain, at a castle that was said to have inspired the original cartoon. The castle in question is far away from most people. About 100 people were invited, which you can't say is the average sort of movie premiere setup. I mentioned in my post column, but as well as sending her to a far-off castle, you can't help thinking that Disney's executives must have been wishing they could also give the star a poisoned apple that would set her to sleep for many years, so that she didn't appear in front of the world's press again anytime soon and diminish the movie she's meant to be promoting.
Disney's unusual promotional strategy for Snow White only fueled speculation that the studio knew it was doomed to fail. Instead of a grand premiere, the film debuted in a remote Spanish castle, avoiding major media attention. Analysts saw this as an attempt to minimize scrutiny of Rachel Zegler and the film's troubled production. This isn't an isolated case. Disney's Peter Pan and Wendy also flopped, reinforcing criticism that the company prioritizes political messaging over quality storytelling. Audiences seem to prefer faithful adaptations or fresh ideas, yet Disney continues down a path that alienates its core fans, risking its once unshakable dominance in family entertainment. Beyond her criticism of the original film, Zegler also made political statements that alienated a large portion of the audience. In a particularly controversial remark, she stated, "May Trump supporters and Trump himself never know peace." This statement immediately sparked outrage, as it was seen as a direct attack on a significant portion of the American public. Additionally, Zegler demanded higher pay for every stream of the film, insisting she should be compensated for every hour it is watched online. These comments, perceived as entitled and divisive, only worsened the situation. Instead of uniting audiences through a shared love of Disney magic, the film became yet another battleground for political and cultural debates. The catastrophic failure of Snow White serves as a lesson in what happens when a studio prioritizes political messaging over storytelling. From the outset, Disney's decision to radically change a beloved classic alienated fans, while Rachel Zegler's controversial comments only added fuel to the fire. The disastrous box office performance, terrible audience ratings, and empty theaters all pointed to the same conclusion. Audiences rejected this remake. Disney's continued push for woke remakes has resulted in multiple high-profile flops, raising serious questions about the company's creative direction. If Disney wants to regain its former glory, it must refocus on storytelling rather than using its films as political statements. Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next one.